Om. Namaste to all. We are continuing our Practical Krishna series in an effort to look at Bhagavan Krishna as a master human being who could solve many problems with great ease. For the time being, we are going to ignore that he is an avatara, that he is the Saguna Brahman, that he is the Paramatma. For the duration of this talk, we are going to consider him as a master problem solver, a person with a lot of practical, down-to-earth management skills, and this is going to give us a special vantage point in trying to replicate that model in our lives. The last time we looked at the Practical Krishna series, we saw how Jarasandha was persistently a thorn on Krishna's side for decades. Probably Krishna was 10 years old from that time till the time Jarasandha was taken out by Bhima. Krishna had to come with multiple options to handle him. Though Krishna could have easily solved that problem, he wanted to wait for that time. So we saw how if there is a long lasting problem, how we can solve in our life. Before that, we saw how when Kamsa was sending one problem after the other, how Krishna was handling that. We also looked at it from a spiritual perspective, how to look at those Rakshasas sent by Kamsa. So he handled them with ease, and that was like child's play, and that was one type of problem solving. Jarasandha was another type of problem solving. But have you ever had a situation in life that simultaneously you are having 2, 3, 4, 5 problems? And if you have not had that opportunity, I don't want to be disheartening. At some point in life, we will come to such a situation. Simultaneously, you have to solve different problems. I'll give you a quick example for people who are abroad. Let's say that you are in H1 visa, and if you don't get a job, let's say that if somebody got laid off from a job, and you not only have money problem, but you also will soon run into a visa problem, right? So you will probably have 2, 3 problems to solve. Now you need to prioritize which is big, which is first, which is... So we have our own experience in those kind of problem solving. But when we look at Krishna, he comes with a totally different toolkit. The way he handles these problems are a role model for you and me. So as usual, in our regular format, we are going to first look at the story, dive deep into it, and then we are going to look at the takeaway, the practical applications that we can use these techniques in our life. So as usual, the talk is based on an earlier blog. So for those who are interested, it is pinned on the top of this room. So we saw that Jarasandha would come attack Mathura. Every time he came with this magic number 23 Akshaunis. 17 times he came, got defeated, had to go back, raise another 23 Akshaunis, come back. I don't know why he didn't come with 24, 25. What was that magic number and why he got that? I could not fish it out. But here is Jarasandha coming for the 18th time. He may reach the doors of Mathura in another day or two based on the travel speed of his army. Remember, where is Mathura and where is Magadha? Magadha is Bihar, right? So from Patna to, if you are going to take a huge army and if you are going to come, you have to go at the pace of the army, right? So Krishna got advance news that he is going to come in 1 to 2 days. While this was happening, there was another Asura. His name was Kala Yavana. Basically, what is referred as a Mlecha. That means he is not part of the Dharmic civilization. So he comes with a 3 crore army. And he thought there is absolutely nobody to challenge. So his problem was, I want a worthy opponent to prove myself. He has a different type of ego problem. Now what Narada Maharishi said, he landed right in front of him. You know, Narada Maharishi has free pass everywhere. Especially with Asuras, he gets free pass. 2 free passes, right? He was the one who went and told Kamsa that don't count the, because Kamsa first had let go of Vasudeva's first child. And he had also released them. Because Vasudeva went and gave the child to him, and then Kamsa said, okay, I understand this is only number 1. Number 8 is the problem. Then Narada thought, if this fellow doesn't step on the gas, the avatara will not happen. So he went and told them, hey, do you know anything about Devas? Do you know about their counting system? They can start anywhere and count anywhere. Your number system is starting from 1. Do you know their number system could start with 7? So the first child itself could be 8. So like that he confused them. And being the brilliant idiot he was, he said like, okay, the best way to handle this is put these 2 folks in jail and start killing all the child. And Bhagavan thought, okay, this is the way to fast track. So same way Narada Maharishi came here, he was wanting to play his role in the avatara. So he went straight to Kalayavana. He said, you want a worthy warrior to fight, right? I will tell you who he is. He said, who is it? This fellow, blue color. Even from distance you see blue color. You can't mistake him, right? He has 4 hands. Okay? He has this yellow silk clothes he wears. And he has 1 hand, even if you think 4 hands not giving you, he has chakra on 1 hand, shankha on 1 hand, or padma on the other hand. And he told about all the and he says sometimes he appears without shankha and chakra also. He will just have the no weapon form also. So he gave the detailed maximum blueprint of Krishna. Now our man said, I know exactly who to attack. So now Kalayavana is on Mathura's doorstep with 3 crores of army. And in another day or 2, our Jarasandha will come for the 18th time. Is that enough problem for you? In our life, do we have such big problem? No. So Krishna said, with 2 big powerful enemies, how to have no loss of life. Because Krishna, even if Krishna's army was so small, it didn't matter. There will be some loss in an army when it fights. Krishna said, enough of collateral damage. People are already tired of all this. So Krishna said, he called Vishwakarma. He is the architect for Devas. And he said, you have created so many worlds, so many lokas, so many brilliant things. This is the blueprint I want. He gave his mental blueprint. And he said, I want this to be on an island. So, as soon as Krishna told that, immediately in Dwaraka, simultaneously Vishwakarma is building a beautiful city with so many gates. That's why it's called Dwarika. Dwara means gate. So many gates. And then he said, he went out. And Balramanna, he's always wondering. He's like, such a big attack is coming. Where is this Krishna? And he's going out. He's going out out of the gates, and he's not even having a weapon. Oh, and of course, Balramanna knows Krishna cannot be understood. He can do whatever he wants. He's sometimes Balramanna thinks that he has to take care of him. Sometimes he thinks that, okay, what is there? I can't do anything. Krishna only does everything. He's kind of like an interesting personality, we should say. And then what Kalayavana did, he saw from distance that blue little boy is there. Okay, tick. 4 hands, tick. One simple lotus garland, tick. Yellow color silk, tick. Hey, there seems to be some mark on his chest. That is Srivatsa, tick. Something on his head. Oh, peacock feather, tick. Now, he saw that Krishna had no weapons. So he said, if he doesn't want to fight without weapons, let me also go and catch him and pulverize him with my bare hands. And I don't know about you, it's going like a movie in front of me. So if you can visualize it, all the more even better. Now, what our Kalayavana did was, he got down from the chariot and he started running towards Krishna. And as he was running from Krishna, Krishna wanted to lead him slowly to a far off mountain cave. Why is he wanting to take a mountain cave? We will see in a minute. And then, from a distance, Kalayavana was abusing Krishna. He said like, Krishna thought, this fellow still has some quota of good karma left for him, protecting him. Let him exhaust it. Right? And as our man was coming, there was a beautiful, you have to see that, how Kalayavana started chasing it's almost, imagine, in slow motion. His hands are almost about to touch Krishna. It's like few inches away. If he touches, he will catch hold of Krishna and he wants to. But just at that second, he thinks that one more step he will catch Krishna. Suddenly Krishna goes 2 paces further. And then this fellow catches his breath and he runs. And then, so imagine if Krishna ran so fast, he would say like, forget about it, let's go and bring the chariot and chase him, right? And if Krishna was too slow, the fight would have started right there. So Krishna was so beautifully orchestrating this chase that it is so difficult to even describe it with his mala running in one side. Imagine you have to see that he is running awkwardly with his 4 hands, right? 2 hands only we can't run. This is Krishna, way before he went to Dwaraka, right? That is like he is probably in his teens, maybe, or maybe just around that age, like 20 or something like that, probably. I can't guesstimate, but he should not be older than that, around that time. And then as he ran, he goes inside and sees there is a person sleeping there. So Krishna went and hid behind that dark cave. Now this Kalayavana who started running behind, he came and he heard that sound of settling down. But this was a dark cave. So the light was very faint and he could not figure out. He found that somebody was lying down. He didn't know who it was. So his brilliant brain told him that Krishna is acting like he is asleep. So he came and gave a violent kick and he started kicking that person again and again. And that person woke up. The minute he set his eyes on Kalayavana, Kalayavana was reduced to ashes from the fire that came from that sleeping person. Our friend who was sleeping there, his name was Muchukunda. You want to call him a pet name, you call him Muchu. Our Muchu was the son of Mandata. Name sounds familiar. Yes. This Mandata was one of the greatest kings in the Ikshvaku Kula. One of the ancestors of Rama. And our Muchu, what he did, he went and fought on behalf of the Devas in a Devasura Yuddha. And understand, when time you go to Devaloka and you are going in a different timeline, the fighting was over. We see this in Mahabharata also. Recently when Kicha was talking about Mahabharata in Manbugal, he gave this graphic description of, I think he finished that part for Arjuna in Indraloka. The timeline is different. The timeline that happened in Indraloka is so different from what is happening here. Same way when Muchu said, okay, the war is over. How about I go back home to my family? The Deva said, oops, we forgot to tell you, your timeline is so different, buddy. There are no relatives left. There is no one for you. He said like, what will I do? So they said, see, we can give you any boon you want except moksha or kaivalya. That can be given only by Mahavishnu. So Muchukunda was tired of fighting non-stop. So he said, I would like to have a nice long sleep to rest myself. See, here is a person who could have asked anything, but his tamas overtook him. We will research this also later. His tamas overtook him that he wanted to just sleep. So the Deva said, okay, let it be, but we will give you one extra bonus. If somebody wakes you, you look at them, they will be burnt to ashes. So Muchukunda was sleeping in this cave and Krishna knew that. So he took advantage of that knowledge he had about Muchu and he went, instead of going straight to Muchu, he was picking his delivery, Kalayavana, and delivered it to, look at the timing. This is called, making use of the resources that are available. Bhagavan Vishnu wanted to bless Muchukunda, so that's why he put his favorite Mahavishnu, 4 arms. He doesn't go in 4 arms and all normally. So he went in 4 arms, Chaturbuja, and then he went with a nice mala. He went with nice, he was fully dressed up, Mahavishnu is Alankara Priya, right? So he was fully decked up. What a sight it must have been, right? I can't imagine how beautiful it would have been just to see Krishna in that. What kind of blessing it would be to just hide somewhere in the corner of that cave. Maybe even if we were one lizard in that cave and just look at Bhagavan's Divya Rupa, what a beauty it would have been. But anyways, Bhagavan said, our Muchu said like, hey, who are you? Why did that person burn? So Bhagavan said, are you interested in going to moksha, or are you interested in getting all this story, why this happened? He said like, no, I want moksha only, but tell me who you are. I'm still foggy from my deep tamas. Remember, this is a man who was born before Rama's time, and now in another yuga is waking up. So that much long deep sleep. So his brain is not working, right? Fully. So Krishna gave him a glimpse of what happened, what is his avatara, and told him that he was such a big Vishnu Bhakta. And that Muchukunda could ask any boon. Till that time, Tamas was holding him, right? At this time, his Viveka and Vairagya woke up. Instead of asking like what he did with the Devas and say like, I want to go back to sleep, right? Or he could have asked, if Bhagavan comes in front of us, what will we say? You know what, I want to pay the electricity bill, I want to pay the phone bill, I want to pay the EMI. Will you be asking all this, or will you be asking something big? Like moksha. So, our Muchukunda, because he was a master bhakta, and he had also seen Bhagavan in person, he started bursting into a prayer. And in this prayer, all he said was, Bhagavan, there are 6 enemies that are chasing me relentlessly wherever I go. Please give me protection in your lotus feet. Are? He's been sleeping here. Devas have given blessing. What is the 6 enemies? You guessed it right. The 5 Indriyas and the Manas. Here is, and that is why you need to read this in Bhagavatam, because the flowery language in the Dasamaskanda is so beautiful that it's hard to take our mind off of this beautiful picture what Vyasa has given to us. Bhagavan said, look, you could have asked anything. You could have asked any kamya phala. You could have asked for any artha phala. Could have asked any dharma phala. Being a Raja, you could have said, I want my kingdom back. I want this, that. I want new queens, new prince. You could have asked all those things. Bhagavan would have given all that in a, just like that. But here is a person. When Bhagavan is appearing before us, contrast that with people like Duryodhana. When Bhagavan came and showed his Vishwarupa Darshana, he said, no, catch him and put him in jail. As if jails will hold him. Right? But here is a Bhakta who is not distracted by sensory temptations. Always, even when he woke up from deep tamas, his thoughts are like Bhagavan. I want only Bhagavan's Charana Ravinda. So, here is Krishna said, okay, Muchu, you have done a wonderful job. I will give you unwavering bhakti to me. What is the big deal? If you really look in Bhakti Sampradaya, Bhagavan, if you ask moksha, he will give you moksha just like that. But only to a chosen few, real, unconditional, true, elevated bhakti comes. Because what happens once we start this bhakti little journey, some little jnana comes and then Bhagavan says, okay, we say like, I want moksha, and Bhagavan says, okay, chalo moksha, theek hai. But here is a person who lived such an extraordinary bhakti life. Bhagavan says, you will be granted bhakti, which is even regarded higher than mukti. That kind of bhakti he is getting. And then Bhagavan said to Muchukunda, remember, when you were young, you killed so many animals unnecessarily. And if you want to overcome that, you need to do a few things. You need to go take a life of tapasya, where your mind will be sheltered by me. In that sheltered place, you go and burn all your vasanas. And then Bhagavan said, I will give you a yardstick to measure how you are doing. See, if I am lost, I come to Kicha and say like, hey, where is this place? He says, go left, right and whatnot, and you will go there. I said, okay. And then Kicha says, you know what? When you make left, keep going straight till you hit this store or you see this blue color building or something like that. And then make a right. So he gives you a landmark. So here, Bhagavan says, when you have achieved this status, you would know that you are ready to come for moksha. What is that? Shouldn't we also know that? Yeah, that's why in Bhagavatam it is given. It is called Sarva Bhuta Suhrudatma. What? Sarva Bhuta Suhrudatma. Sarva means all. Bhuta means beings. Suhrudatma means you are a well-wisher for all beings. That means this person is my husband, wife, father, mother, my children. You don't have like that bias. Oh, that is my enemy. That is my person I don't like. Oh, that is a snake that is ready to bite me. You don't see that distinction. You are equally looking for the welfare of every living being. Oh, that's literally impossible. Of course, with our vasana baggage, it is literally impossible. But Bhagavan says this is the standard you need to hit. In fact, later in Bhagavad Gita, he gives the same standard as in chapter 12. He gives a list of qualities. We may probably discuss that later, but if you are interested, you can go and read about that in Whom Does God Love? In a 3-part series, I had laid it out, whatever is given in Gita. So now, after cleansing all his vasanas, look here. Even Bhagavan's darshana alone was not enough to burn all that vasanas. You have to go and clean it. You have to burn that. Right? So Bhagavan says you have to go burn all these vasanas But you are guaranteed, Muchukunda, next Janma, not this Janma. You go now and start meditating, and then you have so many negative vasanas piled up, all from what? Just killing those animals for hunting. So once you burn that too in what? In one Janma, one small time as a prince, he did that. So imagine what Bhagavan will come and say for us. Of course, we have not cleansed enough that Bhagavan will come and tell. But when we listen to this story, we should know that how much baggage we have in this Janma only. Now, that is not to scare us, that is only to tell that we have some ways to go. Now, here, Muchukunda said, okay, what more you want? You got the darshan of Mahavishnu whom you wanted, the Chaturbuja form. So he said, thank you. He went around Krishna, prostrated at him, and he started going towards Gandhamadana Parvata. Gandhamadana Parvata is where? Badrikashrama. He went there and he fixated his mind on tapasya, deep rooted in Shraddha, firm, devoid of any attachments, whether it is physical or mental, and free of any doubts. Let's listen to the words used in Bhagavata just to get that context in our head. Because sometimes the words we give translation doesn't do that. Tapaha, Shraddha, Yuto, Dhiro, Nissango, Mukta, Samshaya. Mukta Samshaya means free of doubt. Remember in Bhagavan Krishna in Gita he says Sanshayatma Vinashyati. That means the one who has doubts gets completely destroyed. Doubts about what? Doubts could be about Asta. Doubts could be about Bhagavan. Doubts could be taking us to the world of objects. Doubts could be anything. But doubts like these will destroy us. But after seeing Bhagavan, after getting the assurance, there is no doubt left in the hearts of Muchukunda. Then at Badrikashrama, he did tapasya to overcome the dvandvas. What are the dvandvas? Opposites. Hot, heat or cold. Victory and defeat. Mana, apamana. Right? He overcame all of that. And his heart was filled with peace. And then Bhagavan Krishna went back to destroy that Yavana army. That Kala Yavana's army, right? Without a commander-in-chief and a king to lead that, that's child's play for Krishna. He destroyed everyone. And then he took all the booty what these enemies had in a couple of bullock carts and a bunch of bullock carts, and he slowly started moving towards Dwarka. Deliberately, slowly. And then we saw in last time that Jarasandha, how he intervened in this journey and he tried to kill Krishna and how Krishna escaped to Dwaraka. We saw that last time already. So we are not going to go into that. We will put an end to the story part here. But here is where we need to start pulling our notebook or our attention back and focus on how to take this story and apply in our life. Now here comes the fun part. We just heard a story. The modern mind will have 150 questions. Did it really happen? How can a person who was born in a different yuga be here? We have all these questions. Again, as I said, we are not going to look at the avatara aspects or the Leela Vibhutis. We are only going to look at it from the perspective of how to take this story, wisdom, and apply in our lives. Deal? So the first thing we are going to do is, remember, what is that we are trying to understand? We are trying to understand how, when we are faced with so many problems, how to handle them simultaneously. So what are the problems? At least 4 problems are there, but Krishna found different solutions. Kalayavana came, same time Jarasandha was also about to attack. Krishna had to secure all the Mathuravasis in Dwaraka, and then he had to also give darshana before moving away. Otherwise he has to come another time for giving darshana for our friend Muchu. So he had to take care of that also. And then he had to dispose of Kalayavana. Then he had to dispose of Jarasandha. Whether it is a temporary solution, permanent solution, whatever he had to come up with. Now look at, so many problems are there right now. Now which is the task you need to prioritize? So Krishna's priority was, number 1, take care of his citizens. So he said, asked Vishwakarma to build a city, the same speed at which it was coming. Krishna, through his yoga, transported all the people, teleported them literally to Dwaraka, from Mathura to Dwaraka. And then you keep the order of priority. Hey, order of priority, draw Kalayavana before Jarasandha comes, make him meet Muchukunda, take care of blessing Muchukunda, come back and finish off the army before it joins forces with Jarasandha, and then handle Jarasandha in his own style. So this is a project management basic. Like when you have project deadline, 5 different things you need to do, you need to know what is the order of priority you need to do. You should not do the 4th task the first, and then first task the 3rd, and then you can't mix it up. So having the clarity of thought to prioritize is the first lesson we are getting from Krishna's episode. The second lesson we are going to take. We already saw, if there are different ways to solve different problems, right? We saw with Jarasandha's case, one problem, 3 different solutions he came up with over a period of time. With Kamsa's Rakshasas, his solutions were simpler. But here he had a big problem. It looks like one big mess. But here is Krishna, who takes this big problem and breaks it into small bite-sized pieces, and then layered it in a way that he could prioritize it. So in our life also, if we take one big problem, let's say for example, I need $1 million, for example, right? If I want $1 million, I can go to one place and get 1 million. Very difficult to get that. Or I can go to get 2 places, get $500,000 each. Or I can go to 10 places and get 100,000 each. So I can come with different permutation combination for that. Now I am not asking that everything has to be money related, but I am just giving that as an example, that if you break that problem into smaller pieces, it becomes more easily approachable. In case of Jarasandha, he was at least 1 to 2 days away. That knowledge and that information is useful. Why? He has 1 day to solve the problem before it becomes bigger. Let's say that you and I are playing cricket. And now, knowing that my run rate is increasing, and I don't have any efficient batsman following behind, before the run rate goes up, asking run rate, I am going to keep increasing my scoring rate so that I can tamp down that rising run rate, right? So what you are doing is you are trying to solve a problem with the bigger picture in mind. And same way, when you try to handle the problem, you need to be cognizant of what each of that small problem flavor is. So just because you took a big problem and you broke them into 4 pieces, all 4 pieces will not have the same flavor. So you need to respect the flavor of each subcomponent which you are dealing with. For example, when Kalayavana was searching for Krishna, Krishna came out without any weapons. Imagine if Krishna came with chakra. What would have happened? This fellow would have started attacking right away. And then Bhagavan would be busy fighting, and then what happens to our Muchu? Or that by the time our Jarasandha would have come. So Bhagavan was cognizant of the timing. So even for us also, when we are solving problems in our life, the timing element is very critical. The second thing is, when Bhagavan took Kalayavana to the cave, he had complete knowledge of Muchukunta. He used him as a weapon to attack Kalayavana. So having a complete domain knowledge of a particular situation will help us how to solve a particular problem. If you have a technical problem and if you don't know, if you are not aware of the technology or the science behind it, how will you use that wisdom for your case? It literally becomes difficult. So understanding and respecting the flavor of the subcomponents of the problem is very critical. And also understanding what it takes to solve each component is what is required. And then Krishna came back and took care of the Yavana forces. Later he had some other plan for Jarasandha. Remember, we saw in Jarasandha's case, same problem, different solutions, right? So the key lesson here we are looking at is how to break a humongous problem into bigger, smaller pieces. And if the piece is big, it is still a fraction of the previous humongous size. So you know how to deal with problems. Second thing, or rather third thing I should say, there is an element of efficiency, multitasking, timing element, all in one. When Krishna solves problem, a big problem becomes unmanageable, broken into pieces, but the key thing is timing. He has to handle both Muchukunda blessing, give the devotee darshana, simultaneously eliminate Kalayavana just before that. Right? Same way, timing is also required when he was running. If he took, if he came very early and he started going towards Muchukunda, the Kalayavana forces would not have known that is Krishna, blue boy, he is going. They don't know. So the timing element is very critical. And also Krishna has to come back and clean up that Kalayavana army before Jarasandha's arrival. Otherwise, they both can join together and create a more deadly force. See, enemy's enemy is your friend, right? So an element of efficiency, multitasking ability and timing is something which we all can take away. Look how beautiful it is. You just are looking at one Bhagavatam incident, but you can keep squeezing it. You will get more and more and more rasa. The difference between Bhagavata and let's say that some intellectual Baba comes and gives some wisdom. After 2 times you squeeze that, it will become so dry. It will become so dry that you can't even squeeze any longer, and it will be boring also. Nothing will come out of it. Here, you took Bhagavata and you are looking only from a practical modern person's perspective. And look how much you have got. And you have not even scratched the surface. Get ready for more. Now, how many of you have gone on trekking or something? I don't know. You need to know how to motivate others. If you tell them, if the person is saying that, hey, you know what, you have to just walk non-stop for 3 days and then you will come to the summit. That's the place you are going. You will say, good luck. I am not even going on that journey. Whereas, if you are doing something other way around, and if you are saying like, hey, you know what, I had an experience. My very first trek up the hill was in a place called Thiruvannamalai. So I had gone to do some research on plants, collect some samples and things like that. So the folks I was with, they said like, and I was so ill prepared. I went there in sandals, in Hawaii chapel. How stupid it would have been. Rock climbing in sandals. Good luck. Okay, that was the the senselessness and the ignorance I was back in the day. So the guy said, "You're looking at the hill, just up there." So, and we are walking 1 hour from the place where we got parked, and we have still not come to the place where we can start climbing. And I am like wondering, from that road it looked like only like 5-minute walk. How is this? And then after great difficulty, 1 hour real rock climbing, literally couple of places I would have slipped and would have probably gone and met Krishna earlier only. But I think my karma has to play out like Muchukunda. So Krishna said, wait some more time. And I was spared. And then by the time I go to the top, here comes my friend and guide. And he says, interestingly, I recall his name. His name is Elumalai. That is Lord Venkateswara's name, right? So he was my guide throughout. And that's an interesting correlation. But anyway, Elumalai comes and says, we climbed all the hills and now we saw a little bit of vegetation. We had to go in. And then I said like, looks like we are here, man. You said it will take all day. He said, no. You see the other hillock right from here? I said, we never saw that from way down there. He said like, yeah, that's why I didn't tell you, because you couldn't have understood. So now we have to go there. After we went there, he said, not this hillock, but you see little bit further, you have to go through this little valley and then you have to go to the next hill. That hill was not at all visible from the bottom of it, of the journey. So this way we kept going and going and going, and then we came to a place where these guys themselves got lost, and then we were so close to the place and we figured out, and then we go to that place which was the promised land, and we were told it was a cave. Later, when I came to that place, I realized it was not actually a cave. It was only a rock crevice. It was just a small crack in the huge boulder. and there was a small pond next to it with lotus. And he said, and this, by the time this was like around 6:30 or 7 in the evening. So from morning 5 o'clock, this fellow just saying like, right there, right there, right there, almost like kabadi, 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 you know. So we went all the way to the other side. So you should know how to motivate other people. Whether you are telling a story, whether you are cheerleading your team, whether you are running a project, how to keep. Now Krishna kept his, not only lured Kalayavana, he kept him motivated. The beautiful word told in Bhagavatam, we should not miss this. Hastapraptam ivatmanam harinasa pade pade nito darshayata duram yavaneshu drikandaram. What he says is hastapraptam ivatmanam. As if hastapraptam, that his hand is going to almost catch Krishna, almost touch him. How is that? Pade pade. Every step he felt like that. Every step he thought, next step he will catch Krishna. But suddenly Krishna was miraculously one step always ahead of him. He was fast, but at the same time he was slow enough that our Kalayavana would not give up on him and run back to the chariot. So when we are setting goals for our own life, think like a rubber band. If you don't stretch a rubber band, you will not be able to use it. But if you stretch a rubber band so much that it snaps. Same way, when we set our goals, it should be outside our comfort zone. But it should also stretch us. At the same time, it should not be so much outside that no, we can't even do this. Like, you know what? There is no motivation there. Like say, for example, if I want to, become a bit more healthier, I can look at someone who is healthier and do some exercise and do that. But if I say I am going to be the next Arnold Schwarzenegger, or I am going to train to beat Mike Tyson, even though he is old, but I don't even measure to one arm size of his. So if I go and say like I am going to be that, what will happen? You will not even go on that journey. Because your mind already knows, this fellow is simply talking. I know that what he has done all these years. Why even bother? This fellow will not even do anything beyond day 2. How many of us set some goals so big, so ridiculous, that even before we start, by the time we finish dreaming our goal, we are already demotivated by the goal. We say like we will start that next year onwards or next time onwards. Right? So we should know how to motivate others, and most importantly, how to motivate ourselves by watching Krishna. So when you read Bhagavatam, don't just say, okay, Krishna ran and then this fellow went and then story over. That kind of story is over for a person who is half-baked. Now, if you go to a regular pravachana, they focus so much about the Bhagavan's Leela, that he is giving darshana for Muchukunda. Look at that, Krishna. Look at that peacock feather. They give you such a big graphic description that may help us get little bit bhakti. But we don't get that practical connection with Krishna. And how many of us have bhakti that much? We are not Mirabai, or we are not like Tulsidas or Kanakadas, Ramadas, Tyagaraja, that our hair is all standing when we think about Krishna. So, we need to make that practical connection with Krishna before we can even develop that bhakti. So, here is a way to connect that, take that message and apply in our daily life. Okay. The next lesson we are going to take is how to overcome tamas, or how tamas can be very dangerous. Here is Muchukunda. And Muchu is a great bhakta and very powerful person. Are people, are devas lining at your house and mine to say, hey, please come and fight with the asuras for us? We are not that powerful too. So here is Muchu with so much power. But when he was so tired after fighting the war victoriously, his tamas overtook him. What is the first thing he said? I want to sleep. Because there is nothing to go home and do. Because the home itself is gone. The timeline itself is gone. You are in a different timeline. Right? And look at this is the more horrifying aspect of tamas. At least in my head. I don't know how you feel. Here is a Vishnu Bhakta who spent his maximum timeline thinking about Bhagavan Vishnu, doing his puja, doing his archana, aradhana. And Bhagavan is standing in front of him in his classic insignia. You can't miss him. See, if I tell one blue color person with a flute in hand, with what is it, like a nice Kaustuba money and all those descriptions of Krishna, will you miss it out? But here is a bhakta of the caliber of Muchukunda, yet because of his tamas, as soon as he woke up, he is asking, oh, by the way, who is this person who got burnt to? Who are you? If this is not just the groggy feeling that we get when we are just waking up, the drag of tamas is so deep that it alters our personality. Remember, tamas is also a guna, just like sattva and rajas. Just like sattva is going to guide your personality, tamas also can misguide your personality. So we have to not only overcome tamas, not only get rajasic and overcome it, but we should convert that into sattva. If we don't do that, imagine if we are not having every day that Mahavishnu is standing at our doorstep when we wake up and say, come on boy, I will come and take care of your situation. He is not going to do that. But every day we are confronted with tamas, are we not? So we have to learn how to overcome tamas. Very important. Then there are some important spiritual pointers which we can take. The spiritual pointers we need is that you and I are responsible for our karmas and our karma phala. Krishna gave him undiluted, special A-grade bhakti and also promised him mukti. Still, Bhagavan said, you go and do tapasya and purify your vasanas. You will get one more janma. In that janma also you will get opportunity to burn your vasanas and all this karma phala you have been accumulating. So look at this idea when people say, hey, even in our sampradaya, some people misinterpret Saranagati by saying like, hey, you know what, I am traditionally, one Acharya told that I'll get Saranagati, I'll go back to whatever I am doing. Nobody. Saranagati only gives you a guarantee that Bhagavan is going to give you the mukti. But it is your job and mine to burn those vasanas. At least that is okay. There is one desert religion that says, hey, you do whatever papa you do, that all that papa was because this so-called person, old man got angry and he cursed all unborn humanity. That's why you are doing papa. And that papa will be wiped out if you just sign up. How is that? How ridiculous is that? When you look at Muchukunda, a superlative bhakta who has Bhagavan as his for darshana, personal darshan, personal guarantee that he will go get mukti, still he has to go do tapasya to burn his vasanas. See, Sanatana Dharma is so scientific that these are not stories, these are actual incidents that reiterate how we should live our life. The other interesting aspect, takeaway for you and me is, Muchukunda did all his bhakti and sadhana long time back. Then he had such a long period of tamas. But as soon as he had darshan of Krishna, all his viveka started coming back. He understood that he should not ask. Already he made mistake of asking sleep. Right? So he understood, his viveka came to the rescue and said, hey, I am always troubled by those 6 enemies. The 5 indriyas and manas. So please get rid of that. Whichever janma I go, even if I go to Devaloka, these indriyas and manas are going to come and give me problem. So Bhagavan, please release me from this samsara. That's the focus he is saying. Now Bhagavan says, hey, you are such a wonderful bhakta, and your bhakta lakshana is only seen in this. So you have to go through this cleaning period, but don't worry, all that sampatti you have got by doing bhakti, sadhana and whatever is, it's safe. So if this janma we are not guaranteed mukti, no problem, Bhagavan gives a double guarantee that whatever good karma you have accumulated, whatever sadhana you have done, whatever tapasya you have done, whatever cleansing of the vasanas you have done, you will carry forward the next time you start carrying forward. Isn't that a great deal? So that we can march without fear in this journey of samsara, that Bhagavan's grace is there with me because he has given me the guarantee that all the punya I have done, all the sadhana I have done are guaranteed protection. This is not like the government currency note. I promise to pay the bearer a sum of 2000 rupees. No. When government does demonetization again, for example, and again another government or another person comes and says, hey, these are old notes, you are bringing after 10 years. You can be the bearer, but there is no guarantee. But here Bhagavan gives the guarantee wherever, even if you last yuga you did that sadhana and bhakti, but he jumps, he is before Rama. Right? The son of, from that yuga he is carrying forward the ledger of Papa and Punya, though in the same body, he is seeing that. Now, I didn't go into the physical changes that he feels. When he steps out of the cave, he sees all the things have shrunk, because in one yuga to another yuga, when you come, there is going to be a size difference. But anyway, that's not important for us. Remember, our focus is not to get lost in the Leela Vibhutis. Our focus is to extract the maximum knowledge which we can take and apply in our life from Krishna. So what we did here, we got a guarantee from Bhagavan, just like the role model of Muchukunda. When we take some time to develop bhakti, jnana, viveka, vairagya, even if you run into some problems, those problems are not going to be diminishing the effect of it. And also, we get a lot of sensory distractions in samsara, right? But we get the assurance that whenever we refocus, we will continue from where we left. So, this is not like a one-day match where there is rain break and then some Duckworth-Lewis method, they calculate and say, hey, you got only 5 more overs, but you have to hit 80 runs. They don't revise that and come with some ridiculous numbers like that. You just start where you left. And that is why you will see small children, when they are born, sometimes they develop, they exhibit so many vasanas deeply ingrained from a different janma. And then the most important lesson we need to take, Bhagavan Krishna cautions us. When Muchukunda and Krishna were having a dialogue, Krishna talks about certain practices. It is very important for all of us here to pay attention to this very critical, crucial advice of Krishna. He says, in this yuga, if you don't have a little bhakti in our sadhana, but if you are only doing abstract spiritual practices, I do meditation, I do this, I do that, like many new age babas who pop up, like yesterday night's mushroom, right? Every street has got one new age baba. Bhagavan Krishna cautions that is a sure shot recipe for disaster. Oh, where does he say that? In Srimad Bhagavatam, he says in Dasamaskanda, Yujnanam abhaktanam pranaya madirbir manaha akshina vasanam rajan drishyate punar uttittam. What he says is, abhaktanam, that means without bhakti, if you are focusing on mere dry, abstract practices, like a lot of people do jnana marga, they think like bhakti is low level, right? Now, what Krishna is saying is, do it along with bhakti. When you do jnana marga, add along with a little bit of bhakti. So the mind is, what is the secret here? Why is Krishna saying that? Let's take a second to understand. See, our manas is already used to sensory objects. It already knows how to associate with the sensory objects. Already the mind and the Indriyas have gone firmly and settled with the objects of pleasure for all of us. No exceptions here. So what bhakti is doing is, because these sensory objects have such an influence on the manas and the indriyas, you use bhakti to train these, replace these sensory objects with your Ishta Devata. So when you eat food, instead of eating food yourself, make it as a prasad by offering it to Bhagavan and then eat. Tell a sloka and then eat. Instead of just thinking anything randomly, instead of going and smelling all the beautiful flowers and things like that, think like, oh wow, look at this garland of Bhagavan, how beautiful it would be. Smell that way. Or smell the chandana of Bhagavan and say like, hey, look, this is what Bhagavan Krishna is wearing as his lepa, and it is such a beautiful smell. So we are going to use the same methodology what our mind is using, because it is already in the column of sensory objects, but we replace the sensory objects with the superior goal of Ishta Devata. Now, as we get little traction in this journey, we start having a guna transformation, and our spiritual elevation happens without any effort automatically. Same way, when we do bhakti, it is the easiest way to lead the mind in a sure shot way without even the mind realizing that it is being led in that direction. You go and tell your mind, hey, I want to go in this direction. Immediately it will say no. Why? Have you ever spoken to a small toddler? Try reasoning with a toddler. They say terrible 2s and 3s, right? Try reasoning with an angry toddler. Not even angry, normal toddler. They will say, why? What do you mean why? I told you so. They will say why. For everything they will ask you why. So mind also is like that only. It will not accept what you tell. And what you are doing is you are slowly leading the mind in the ways it is comfortable with. Instead of spending time in waste projects, in watching TV, in spending places like that, now you go and train your mind to put it on Bhagavan's Divya Rupa. If you want to speak, talk is Divya Nama. If you want to have food, have some prasada. So that way you are bringing bhakti to every single aspect of your spiritual progress. Your spiritual progress is going to be like you attach like 10 rocket boosters to it, and it is going to go at lightning speed. So in that process, when you start developing this bhakti, automatically viveka start blooming. Once you start getting the viveka, vairagya comes automatically with it. And it says, hey, I am not going to be caught by all this materialistic bling things. I am going to be taking this manas and putting at the lotus feet of Bhagavan. So when you have that bhakti, you can get that extra oomph in your spiritual journey. This is the message given to us using Muchukunda as an example. You can find the specific verses in the Dasamaskanda. And that is why you don't look at these stories and read them like a story. You look at this story and you see how can I apply it in my life. You go with a different purpose. And I already told you, Krishna gave Muchukunda a yardstick. What is the ultimate? When we saw Maricha's story, Maricha, best advice from the worst, we saw in that mini series, we saw about Maricha, right? When Ravana tries to abuse Rama, Maricha says, Rama is Sarva Bhuta Hite Rata. When you think of Rama, he thinks about the well-being of everyone. And Krishna gives the same yardstick to us. Sarva Bhuta Surdatma. That we have a heart of kindness, compassion, prosperity for everyone around. And this one challenges us. Because there are so many negative people around us. We are almost tempted to say, everybody except these 2-3 people. We do have some people who have irritated us to that much, which also tells us that we have not grown to the level what Krishna wants us to grow. Because we have to understand, once we understand the real enjoyer of all activities, yagas, yajnas, austerities is Bhagavan only. The same verse comes in Bhagavad Gita also. Bhoktaram yajna tapascham sarvaloka maheshwaram surdam sarvabhutanam jnatva mam shantim rachati. That when you and I realize that Bhagavan alone is the one who is enjoying all this, that our Antaratma is nothing but Bhagavan, we are already understood. The real essence, Bhagavan Krishna, is that of Paramatma, not just that of an avatara. But even though we tried our best to push away the Paramatma aspect, push away the the Saguna Brahman aspect, push away the Avatara Leela, push away all the aspects. We are just focused on Bhagavan Krishna as a superlative human being. Still, you can't take away the trace of him being the Paramatma. And once you and I develop the jnana and bhakti combination, our kaivalya is guaranteed. Our moksha is guaranteed by Krishna already. So, with those words, encouraging words from Krishna, let me close this talk by the reminder of Krishna's words that we need to work on our tamas continuously. Even if Krishna comes in front, our tamas is going nowhere. We have to still scrub that, replace it with sattva. And after we replace it with sattva, we want to rise above the 3 gunas. At that point, we will merge at his lotus feet. So that is a journey and a promise and a guarantee that is waiting for all of us. Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Shri Rama. Har Har